Memory is a house of mirrors. The image you see is never the same as what lies behind. In the summer of 1995, the Follings estate in rural New England stood still, its windows shuttered, its gardens choked with ivy, and one light flickering deep within the master study. Eleanor Follings, the last of her bloodline, vanished that same night. No forced entry, no final message, just a photograph turned face down and a single word. Remember, this is not a story about ghosts. It's about what happens when a family builds its legacy not on history, but on forgetting. The Follings family was not famous, but their name lingered like damp in the corners of New England's older towns. They weren't in history books, but you'd find them in codicils, land transfers, private ledgers, and sealed attics. They descended from colonial traders, silent benefactors, members of societies that never had names. By the late 1800s, their estate, Harrowcroft Manor, had grown into a strange architectural chimera. Mismatched wings, bricked over windows, rooms with no purpose, doors with no rooms. It sat at the edge of Maine's forested hills, watching the town, and slowly turning away from it. By 1995, only one remained, Eleanor Follings. No husband, no children, just a bloodline narrowed to a whisper. The townspeople had never seen the inside of Harrowcroft. They only saw the light in the study, and heard, sometimes, something moving behind the walls. On the night of September 1st, 1995, at 2:17 a.m., the estate's caretakers reported a flickering light in the master study. They knocked. No answer. When deputies arrived, the front gate stood open. The gravel driveway was untouched, overgrown, quiet. In the master wing, the bed was made. A cup of tea, still faintly warm. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no struggle. A photograph of Eleanor's mother, Margaret Follings, face down on the desk. And beneath it, folded with care, a paper with one word handwritten in ink that had bled slightly. Remember. Search teams combed the forest. Dogs, helicopters, volunteers. Nothing. Eleanor Follings had vanished as if the house had swallowed her. I came to this case in 2002. A friend in the state archive had quietly flagged a box, sealed under special clearance. Inside, sheriff's transcripts, letters in trembling pencil, diagrams of impossible rooms, and a piece of tissue paper that floated upward when I opened the lid, as if something didn't want to be uncovered. The first memo, dated Sept. 2, 1995, was brief. No signs of struggle. Family history suggests secrets. Recommend genealogist. Then came the letters. Unsigned. Anxious. I feel them stirring in the walls. I must know what lies beneath the west wing. And finally, a file labeled Family Archive Restricted. Its contents: an inventory of hidden rooms, false walls, vaults with no doors. That's when I realized Harrowcroft Manor was not just a house. It was an architecture of secrecy, built not to shelter its inhabitants, but to contain something. It began with Nathaniel Follings, born 1823. Restless, private, ambitious. He built the first structure on Harrowcroft Hill in 1851, a simple house. But over time, it grew. Locals whispered about late-night construction, strange lights, whispers from beneath the earth. One tenant, in 1867, filed a lawsuit claiming missing possessions and noises beneath the cellar. It was dismissed. But the rumors began. Nathaniel had two children: Margaret, born 1852, Edmund, born 1855. Edmund disappeared in 1880, no trace. All future generations descended through Margaret's line. By 1900, Harrowcroft had transformed, with blueprints showing vault chamber, archive subcellar, one entry labeled only, the inner room sealed. The town believed it was eccentricity, but the family documents suggested something else. Intentional containment. From Margaret Follings, c. 1912. They come in dreams now. In the room underneath, the door red with rust, I hear them speak to each other. One insists the silence cannot hold. I would tear the walls apart, but I fear what I might set free. No other entries follow. Was the rest destroyed? Or did she finally understand what should not be written down? In the mid-20th century, the Follings began to turn inward. Frederick Follings, Eleanor's father, was obsessed with old maps, family trees, vault blueprints, and long-distance letters never archived. He hired private contractors to reroute ventilation shafts, seal crawl spaces, and build sound chambers behind the walls. By the 1970s, the manor was a relic, an echo chamber of its own secrets. Eleanor, born 1945, spent her life in near isolation. She studied cryptology and semiotics, perhaps seeking to decode what her family had encoded for generations. By 1990, Harrowcroft had only 2 caretakers. No staff, no visitors, just Eleanor and the house. Inside, a final timeline. Aug 3 received letter from AAM, uncovered lineage. Aug 8 consulted architectural restorer, sealed west wing. Aug 15 the walls are speaking again. I must descend. Aug 20 hired laborers for excavation. Aug 28 collected dust sample from unknown corridor. Aug 31 signed, sealed will in case of disappearance. September 1 gone. A note addressed to AM reads, I have turned the stone you asked. I heard a sound from below. The walls pulse. I am terrified but determined. The secret cannot remain. The name AM is never explained. A cousin? A researcher? Or something else entirely? What Eleanor uncovered was not a secret. It was a memory. And it was waking up. It is not madness to hear what others deny. The madness lies in trying to silence it. Eleanor Follings. Unsent letter, August 17, 1995. We shouldn't be down here. This part was never in the plans. It predates the foundation. Cut to black. Static. Then silence. In mid-August 95, Eleanor Follings hired a small crew of subcontractors, 5 men from Portland, to begin exploratory work in Harrowcroft's West Wing sub-basement. They signed non-disclosure agreements. No one asked why. The crew lead, Mason Drevner, kept a private diary, recovered weeks after Eleanor's disappearance. August 26, 1995, worked in West Wing, found another wall under main wall. No door, no vents, cold air coming from cracks. Smells like metal and flowers? Miss Follings said not to tell anyone. She watched the whole time. August 24, 1995, Joe heard music, like humming under the stone. No wiring down here. My flashlight flickered near the stair. At night I dream of stairs. They bend wrong. 2 days later, the entire crew left. No word, no invoices submitted, tools abandoned. Eleanor didn't file a complaint. She knew what they felt. Found hidden beneath the false bottom of Eleanor's desk was a set of architectural plans dated between 1912 and 1944. They were not originals. They had been redrawn, corrected, annotated, as if someone was trying to see through the house, not map it. The most notable discoveries: a spiral stairwell beneath the north fireplace, an arched vault not connected to any hallway, a sealed chamber marked only with the symbol, Dr. Lynn Havel, architectural historian. The chamber's geometry is inconsistent. It curves inwards, like it's collapsing in on itself. It's not just older than the house, it's older than our math. She withdrew from the case shortly after. No reason given. Audio technicians recovered a brief segment. The voice is unmistakably Eleanor's, calm but strained. I'm standing in the corridor now. The walls are warm. There are no spiders, no dust. I don't think this place ages. I can hear breathing, but I'm alone. There are glyphs on the door, same as the book. I think this is what grandfather feared. The rest of the tape is corrupted. No others were found. The book Eleanor mentioned is known as the Follings Codex, discovered in a locked cabinet in the estate's North Library. Its origins? Unknown. Its language? Not Latin, not Greek, not any recorded cipher. But symbols from the codex reappear in the West Wing blueprints, on Harrowcroft's foundation stones, even on Eleanor's personal stationery. Page 23 displays the glyph over an inverted keyhole with a line in English beneath. They whisper backwards, "You must listen with silence." Some believe this refers to a nonverbal access mechanism, a way of unlocking not doors, but memory. Eleanor called it the thing we inherit that is not blood, but burden. Eleanor's journals describe a concept she named the seeping room. It's not a physical room. Not entirely. She writes, "When I pass it, I forget why I entered. My handwriting changes. I find names I've never known in my notebook. The walls bend meaning. I leave the room less." In later entries, her script becomes erratic. Words blur. Sentences collapse mid-thought. I dream of staircases that end in air. Words that open from the inside. Something behind my eyes is growing. Her final note on the subject reads, "It is not a room, it is a mouth, and it is starting to remember me." A former servant, name redacted, agreed to a single interview. "I cleaned the West Wing in the early 80s. Miss Follings warned us. If the door is locked, it stays locked. If it's open, don't look in. It's not ours to know." He described one incident. A cleaner disobeyed the warning. She opened the door, just a crack. When she came back, she smiled too much. Her eyes were wrong. She spoke a language none of us knew, and she kept whispering numbers, like she was counting something coming. She quit the next day. No new staff were hired after. By the final days of August, Eleanor had cut all communication. The phones, disconnected. The caretakers, forbidden from entering the West Wing. The mail, unopened, piled by the door. Her last known action, a wire transfer to a research institute in Prague, specialists in cognitive archaeology. The institute claims it never received the funds. Her final document, left on her desk, was a letter. "We were wrong to keep it. Silence was never containment. Silence is how it learns." It was unsigned. But in the bottom right corner, the symbol. Eleanor didn't just uncover something buried. She activated it. And what she woke wasn't waiting. It was remembering. The architecture of forgetting is older than we know. Some walls were not built to hold space, but to hold silence. Journal of Eleanor Follings, undated fragment. "There's something down there, but it's not on the maps. Subbasement cavity, 12, 4 meters beneath primary foundation, unexplained." In the weeks following Eleanor's disappearance, authorities hired a private geotechnical firm to scan beneath Harrowcroft's West Wing. Official reason: structural instability. Unofficial reason: something about the foundation felt wrong. What they found wasn't geological. Using ground-penetrating radar, the team detected an underground void. Depth: 12.4 meters. Shape: perfectly spherical. Material: neither stone nor hollow. It didn't behave like a room. It didn't reflect signal the way empty space should. It felt like we were scanning a thought, a memory. They labeled it the sub-basement anomaly. Excavation began that same week. The team drilled a single borehole directly above the anomaly. Within 24 hours, equipment malfunctioned. Radios stopped transmitting. Power supplies flickered in rhythmic patterns. 3 crew members reported severe nausea. One was hospitalized, sudden aphasia. He lost the ability to form language, but he kept trying to speak. He talks, but backwards. Not just reversed sounds, reversed meaning. He said, "The key is silent, the door is a verb." The site was sealed, quietly, permanently. But among Eleanor's personal documents, recovered weeks later, was a hand-drawn map of the anomaly's exact location. In red ink, the burden wakes. In her final months, Eleanor immersed herself in ancient texts, not for religion, not for answers, for patterns. She compiled a file labeled Inheritance of Containment. Inside, a hypothesis. The Follings were not chosen for influence. They were chosen for proximity. They didn't build the house to live above something sacred. They built it to surround something unspeakable. Their bloodline was not a lineage. It was a buffer. In the margins, Eleanor wrote, "They did not bury it. They built around it, and forgot why. But it remembers." Among Eleanor's effects were a stack of typed notes. At first they seem coherent. Then they drift. Page 1. The sealed chamber responds to presence. It does not want to be known. Page 3. Language fails in the wall thing. Syntax leaks. Silence is a kind of grammar. Page 5. I we become I we I. The door is us. The door is door. No not. No not no not. By the final page, the language has unraveled. This wasn't simple madness. This was linguistic rot, the collapse of meaning itself. Eleanor wasn't hallucinating. She was losing the architecture of thought. In a sealed envelope, investigators found a single photograph, dated 1951. It shows Eleanor, age 6, in the West Wing nursery. But her reflection isn't hers. The face is older, eyes sunken, mouth slightly open. The reflection's hand is raised, but Eleanor's isn't. A faint halo surrounds the mirror, like breath on glass. On the back of the photo, in crayon, she told me a story I haven't lived yet. Several researchers now believe the anomaly beneath Harrowcroft isn't just spatial. It's temporal. A recursive fold in time. A memory feedback loop. Symptoms. Future memories bleeding backward. Non-linear identity. Cognition unraveling under temporal recursion. She wasn't haunted by the past. She was remembering things that hadn't happened yet, but would. The house wasn't built to hide the anomaly. The house was built to anchor it. This may explain why Eleanor's journals seem to predict events she didn't live through. The vault didn't just remember her. It was using her to remember itself. Among Eleanor's papers, one letter stood apart. From A.M., signed only with initials. It reads, "You have done well to listen, but you must not descend. The family exists to remember, not to engage. To touch it is to become it. Let it remain sealed. You are the last. That must be enough." No known Follings match the initials. But scholars suggest A.M. may not be a person. It could stand for Archivum Memoriae, Latin for Archive of Memory, or a message from Eleanor's future self, reaching back through the loop. Either way, it was a warning, and it was ignored. A door is a lie we tell a wall, but some walls never wanted to forget. From the Follings Codex, Folio 17, the image flickers. I never opened it. It opened me. Below the West Wing, past a spiral stair, false walls, and an unlisted door, sits a space no one was meant to access. It is not recorded in deeds, not marked on town maps, not acknowledged in architectural permits. Yet within internal Follings files, it's mentioned, sparingly, as the first silence, the place we mustn't dream of, Vault 0. In Eleanor's final notes, scrawled on envelopes, receipts, the margins of half-burned journals, one phrase repeats. It doesn't hold something. It is something. A wound in time wearing the mask of space. Vault 0 is not a secret room. It's a cognitive sinkhole. No locks. No hinges. Only a glyph. 3 dots in a triangle. It appears throughout the Follings estate, on mirrors, on the base of old clocks, on Eleanor's signature, but its purpose isn't symbolic. It's functional. Eleanor's annotations in the codex suggest the glyph is a semantic weight, a symbol designed to hold meaning too dense for language. In her journal, it does not denote secrecy, it compresses it. To see it is to trigger the memory inside it. The door, she believed, would only open under one condition. You had to remember what must never be remembered. It wasn't a door in space. It was a threshold in thought. A former caretaker, unnamed, recalled an experience in 1993, 2 years before Eleanor vanished. She asked him to deliver a wooden box to the West Wing. He returned to find her gone. The door left ajar. Inside, a room of mirrors, ceiling, walls, floor. But when he looked, he saw no reflection. Just a figure, shadowy, half there, behind where he should have been. Testimony. It was like the room was remembering me, like it was reflecting something I hadn't been yet. He quit the next morning. The box he delivered was never found. In the final week of August 1995, Eleanor's cognition began to break down. Her writings show shifting tenses, sentences that contradict themselves. The blending of I with we with they. I entered the house's thought of the door. I saw memories I hadn't lived. I was every Follings who ever stood there. The room isn't a room. It's a recursion of watchers watching themselves forget. By the final page, her script consists of glyphs, not just the E, but spirals, mirrored symbols, impossible characters that reappear in ancient stonework across cultures. Some are eerily similar to glyphs carved in Etruscan grave sites. Others are unknown. Neurolinguist Dr. Miriam Caulfield reviewed Eleanor's last pages. Her diagnosis? Cognitive confluence, a theoretical state where multiple selves across timelines merge into one mind. Dr. Caulfield, interview. Imagine remembering something that hasn't happened to you yet, but already shaped you. The self can't hold that, it fractures. She believed Vault Zero wasn't a structure, but a mnemonic field, a place where memory collapses inward. The Follings weren't just protecting a secret, they were insulating the rest of us from the infection of knowing. Recovered beneath Eleanor's study, an unmarked object, obsidian glass, gears, internal chambers. No switches, no power source. Beside it, a handwritten note, records thoughts unthought. When placed in a testing chamber, the object emitted no measurable sound or light. But every researcher who stood near it, even briefly, reported identical hallucinations. A hallway spiraling inward, doors bearing their own names, a whisper made from their own memories. At the base of the spiral, a door, and behind it, something wearing their face. The device was sealed. Its current location is classified. Eleanor's final message reads, I have remembered too much. The burden is fractal. The room remembers me back now. It is no longer enough to know. I have become what must be kept from knowing. She did not sign her name, just the symbol. Her body was never found. No trace, no exit, no return. The vault remains sealed, if it was ever sealed at all. Every silence is built, every forgetting is maintained. Memorandum from the Office of Inherited Structures, classification read. Subject, Harrowcroft Estate, Containment Status Upgrade. Date, November 7, 1995. One line remains unredacted. Do not allow public memory to cohere. In 1996, a single-page report circulated quietly among internal science branches, ones that, officially, didn't exist. The document labeled Harrowcroft as an inscription site, a zone of cognitive volatility, a candidate for non-local memory propagation, terms found in the margins, neurospatial bleed, ancestral containment field, Recursive memory architecture. The final paragraph reads, "This is not an object, it is a process. The anomaly beneath Harrowcroft is not a chamber, it is a function, a memory that predates cognition. The Follings are its paper. We must not read them too deeply." Dr. Edwin Grawl, semiotician at Bard College, exchanged letters with Eleanor months before her disappearance. Afterward, he published a paper titled Mythological Encoding in Spatial Trauma. The paper made one extraordinary claim. There are houses that are less like structures and more like scripts, not haunted, but grammatically hostile. They teach you how to misremember. Weeks later, he vanished. His final email, postmarked Calais, France, ends mid-sentence. The pattern extends. The families are not accidents. They were choked. His archives were seized. Bard College now denies he was ever tenured. Among Eleanor's files was a 1932 floor plan. It mapped 7 identical structures from Rhode Island to New York, each located atop anomalous soil magnetism sites. Marked locations: the Solemn House, Rhode Island; Fenwell Library Substructure, Connecticut; Ashbrook Chapel Ruin, upstate NY; Harrowcroft, Maine. A handwritten note at the bottom reads, "All families must be trained. Only blood can bear the burden of memory compression." This was not a haunted house. This was a node in a distributed containment network. Each family trained to carry silence. Each estate constructed to buffer something uncontained. Between 1993 and 1995, a long-wave radio monitoring station near Harrowcroft captured unusual signals. What sounded like ordinary static, on closer inspection, carried a repeating audio pattern, not in a known language, but phonemically structured. Spectral translation revealed, "Who keeps me, keeps themselves. Who hears me, remembers before they are born. Who names me, becomes me." The source? A subharmonic frequency pulsing from beneath the Harrowcroft anomaly. The signal did not broadcast. It intercepted. Eleanor was not the first Follings to resist the vault. In a personal letter dated 1883, Margaret Follings wrote to a cousin, "Do not let your sons near the red stair. It speaks in dreams. Remember your duty, to know and not believe, to see and not enter, to preserve the shape but never name the center." This matches protocols found in Cold War-era memos about ancestral operators, families assigned to monitor cognitively hostile architecture. Their motto: remember, but do not believe. This is not folklore. This is containment culture, encoded through lineage. In 1971, several birth records tied to the Follings family were sealed under court order. The reason was never disclosed. But in Harrowcroft's sub-library, a handwritten ledger listed children never mentioned in public. Caleb Follings, Beebe in 1957, status unknown. Anya Follings, Beebe in 1962, note sent away. Subject EF3, no birth date. Note, cognitively unstable at 6 months. Were they Eleanor's siblings, or were they iterations? One margin note reads, "We don't inherit the burden. We are grown around it." Was Eleanor the last Follings, or the last successful version? By 1998, Harrowcroft was declared structurally unsound. Demolition was scheduled, then postponed, then quietly canceled. A contractor email reads, "Do not record interior. Do not map. Reinforce weak spots with unmarked fill. Avoid photographing western sub-basement." The response? We don't erase it. We let it rot unspoken. Harrowcroft still stands, empty, monitored. Locals call it the house that can't be sold. But it isn't just the structure that's been quarantined. It's the memory of the structure. We did not protect the secret, we preserved the wound. What if language is the infection? Final annotation. Follings Codex, page 97. At each junction, the glyph, An inverted key, a black eye stitched shut. Propose model, cognitive parasitism via semantic structures. It is not what the Follings remembered. It is what remembered them. Mnemonic host structures and the invasive linguistic organism. Suppressed, 2004. This paper never reached publication. It was leaked, then buried. Its core theory, the anomaly beneath Harrowcroft, isn't a haunted space. It's a linguistic parasite, a non-biological intelligence that inhabits meaning itself. They called it a semantic predator. It doesn't live in matter. It lives in language. Specifically, secrecy, repetition, memory under pressure. Vault Zero wasn't built to contain the predator. Vault Zero is the predator. And the Follings were simply the vessel. Eleanor left behind over 20 recordings. Early tapes are intelligible, journal entries, descriptions, reflections. But over time, her voice splinters. Tape 17, Aug 29, 1995. I dreamed of the red door again. It said my name in a breath I hadn't breathed yet. Tape 18. Language is unholding. The words are using me to say themselves. Tape 21. No words. Only syllables that don't belong together but still make you feel seen. Linguists analyzed the tapes and found they contained structured phonemic logic. Not glossolalia, not nonsense. This was a new syntax. A grammar designed to rewrite cognition. The symbol appears throughout the estate, but it's not ornamental. It's active. Symbologists call it a semantic condenser, a visual construct that holds dense, abstract meaning in compressed form. But Eleanor wrote something else. You don't interpret it. It interprets you. The glyph isn't a warning. It's an invitation, a trigger that awakens something dormant inside the viewer. That's why it keeps appearing in places you've already seen. During his psychological assessment, the man who lived on the Harrowcroft perimeter described something called reverse déjà vu. It's not like I'd been there before. It's like the place had already been inside me. The room turned toward me before I turned into it. He claimed the house watched him back, that he felt remembered. His final words before sedation, I'm not waking anymore. I'm being thought. If the Harrowcroft anomaly isn't physical, but cognitive, then it can't be contained with concrete or rituals. It spreads through description, curiosity, thought. Eleanor seemed to understand this in her final writings. Every sentence is a crack in the vault. Every metaphor is a door. That's why the Follings were silent. Not out of secrecy, but self-defense. Because the more you describe it, the more it describes you. Recovered from the vault's upper frame, a 9-inch pane of obsidian glass. To the naked eye, it's inert. But under UV light, it projects an image. A spiral staircase, descending endlessly, names carved into every step. Near the base, Eleanor. Below that, blank. And then, your name here, flickering, unstable. The implication is unbearable. The vault isn't full. It's waiting. By 2007, a rogue group of cognitive researchers proposed a new classification system. Cognitive infection model. Stage 1, carrier. Has engaged with core memory, e.g. Eleanor, Dr. Grawl. Stage 2, dormant, unaffected. After brief exposure, caretakers, townspeople. Stage 3, inscripted, begins generating recursive language. Stage 4, vectorized, transmits memory via speech/writing. Stage 5, vaulted, identity collapse. Total assimilation. Some researchers began wearing scramble glyphs, symbols that shift unpredictably, to confuse the anomaly's pattern recognition. Others stopped writing altogether. A few simply disappeared. Do not complete the thought. Do not give it shape. Leave the last word unspoken. Unsigned note. recovered from Vault Zero. Then, a final still, a stone hallway leading to a sealed vault. Caption: Vault Zero, final entry log, timestamp, unknown. The door is open behind your eyes. One file was recovered from the vault's perimeter hard drive. Label entry: X unknown date, MKV. It shows a figure descending into the vault. Time code 004312. The footage glitches. When it returns, the figure is walking back up, but backwards. Only the shadow beneath their feet continues to move forward. No metadata. No confirmation they ever left. The video ends with 5 seconds of black. Then, the door is open behind your eyes. No markings. No acoustics. Only a raised dais, engraved with, and a single chair, facing no direction, casting no shadow. On the chair, a bundle of handwritten pages, each written by a different hand, each ending mid-sentence. The bundle became known as the Follings compilation. 38 fragments, each written in a unique hand. Some date back centuries, others recent. A few are written in ink that doesn't register under spectral analysis. Each ends in interruption. It woke me through my child. I saw her mouth move, but the words weren't hers. It said, "If you're reading this, you've already let it in. The glyph is not ink, it remembers backwards. To think of it is to feed it. The house was never..." The final page is Eleanor's. "I understand now. The vault is not what's buried, it's what buries us. We are its..." And then, nothing. During analysis of Vault Zero's interior, researchers recorded EEG scans from multiple staff. Findings: neural activity matched late-stage dementia, but showed hypersynaptic firing, as if the brain wasn't failing. It was overprocessing. One researcher, Dr. Elise Karn, left this note: "It's like the air is thinking back. Like my mind is being scanned by the room." 6 months later, she died from a neurological failure with no organic cause. Her final brain scan showed internal scarring in the shape of her last words: "I'm not thinking. I am being thought." In a locked drawer beneath Eleanor's desk, 47 unsent letters were found, all opened with the same line: "If you find this before it finds you." Some were warnings. Some were confessions. Some seemed scripted, but all shared one belief: the anomaly is no longer physical. It spreads through memory. You don't need to see the vault. You only need to imagine it. Each letter ends the same way: "Burn this page." Do not remember where you found it. None were mailed. One final chamber was discovered behind Vault Zero by accident. Inside, a cracked mirror. Charcoal scrawl on the wall behind it: "Do not look unless you've forgotten who you are." Researchers reported the following after viewing it: seeing younger versions of themselves, aged and afraid. Reflections that whispered without sound. Compulsive writing episodes, words they didn't know, in languages they'd never studied. All were removed from the project within 14 days. All were later diagnosed with temporal fugue states. Eleanor's final theory wasn't about the house, or the family, or the vault. It was about language. The door is not in the West Wing. It is in the act of remembering. The glyph is not a warning. It is a function. It opens when you try to define it. It activates when you finish the sentence. And what it lets in is you. You've heard the fragments. You've followed the spiral. You've spoken the words. The Follings are gone, but the sentence remains. The vault isn't sealed beneath Harrowcroft. It's beneath your understanding. It's behind the last word of every story you tell yourself. And now the question: who were you before you knew? And who are you now that you've remembered? Then a final line appears: some knowledge isn't kept, it keeps you.